Welcome to the Developer Student Chapter podcast called Raw Talent.
This is the fifth episode.
We're going to record with Vinit Shahdeo from Postman Company. He is a software engineer over there, has been a ex-VP at CodeChef VIT, and is variously good in open source. So we would like to call him on the podcast first. Hello, sir. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. Thanks for inviting me. And I'm
Uh,
really excited about this for the next 1 hour that we are going to talk.
Thanks a lot. So that's the same over here too. We also have Shubhang Saxena, DSC lead, in our podcast session today.
Welcome, sir, to the podcast session. It's great to have you on with us. I mean, it's always good to like have people from the industry to like devote their time, dedicated time, and help us students to get into that world of tech. Once again, thank you for attending this podcast.
Thanks, Subhang. Thanks for inviting me. It's a great opportunity for me to like connect with like great developers like you, and it will be really nice to talk to both of you.
uh, so,
Likewise.
the, to the viewers, we would like to tell firstly that this is going to be a very raw, as the raw talent says, and we would be specifically focusing on the developer story of our guest today. And we would basically go how the journey he has taken from his college, what he stuff they did while they were in college and what they learned, and then as they moved ahead, what things they learned. So
And moreover, the outcome of this podcast would be to get you a gist of what's currently relevant in the respective industry of our guest. So that is one thing that we'll go for the journey, and then we'll definitely talk about the recent and general trends that are being followed in the industry. So that again, the aim of this podcast is to bridge down that gap between college and industry.
So,
Right.
sir, as we all know, you are an alumnus of Vellore Institute of Technology, and it's a quite prestigious institution. So, how do you spiral your journey? And we would like to give you just tell us how you started all this.
So like when I was in when I just passed 10th standard, and then I thought that I'll land up to IIT maybe like, but the one thing was clear that I was determined that I'll be taking CSE only. So that was for sure. Like when I was in 9th standard, and then my friends were on Facebook. At that time I used to inspect the source code and do some changes, and that was a great feeling then. So that time I was interested into all these things. So from there, like there was a spark inside me that I learned computer programming one day. And with this spirit, I joined the next school like for +2 in DPS, and there I took C++ as my fifth subject. And then I took a 1 year drop, and I went to Kota, thought that I'll land up into IIT. I tried, but I couldn't. And the only way, so the only college which I got was the VIT. So there I got IT branch. So initially it was like I was upset that I got IT, I didn't get CSE. But within like 6 months I came to know both are same, there is no much difference, and we can do the same thing being in IT. And then VIT was great. Like one thing I would say, uh, like in private colleges, so the what makes the difference between IIT and any private college is the environment, right? So the environment, the kind of students that you are staying with. But in VIT, I must say that the people are really curious, and they are doing a lot of things. And we have a lot of chapters, clubs, like you guys have DSC and all, right? We have also a lot of chapters, and there we learned a lot. So it was a great journey there, and I learned a lot there. I'm really indebted to the
So you all
VIT for every
the college
achievement.
culture and the community, the clubs. That's the main focus.
So
That was one of the highlights of the college life of yours.
you are
That brought you into development.
Yes, I'm in the college chapters and all. So there I got a networking. Like I got a chance to meet with our seniors, and they were doing something really great in their life. And from there, I learned a lot. Like from them, they introduced GitHub to me, and then soon GitHub has become my home page, and a lot of things. I had a like very bad stage fear then. So I couldn't even speak in front of anyone. So I remember like when our seniors asked me to take a workshop. So the first workshop I was supposed to speak for 2 hours, and I couldn't even speak for half an hour. So I was like, means like I prepared my slides for 5 6 times, even though I couldn't speak. So that was something like it was heartbreaking for me. And then on that day, like I felt very bad. And then again I improved my speaking skills. Like I took a lot of classroom sessions and in-core sessions, and then I never miss a chance to speak to any webinar. Sorry, now it's webinar, but previously it was seminar. So in any seminar and workshops and all, so I spoke there. And then and like each time I improved myself. So these are the
So
few things.
so yeah, the webinars actually helped in your in the soft skills parts that students generally find missing. So
Yes.
your take to the students would be to improve their soft skills a bit so that they can not feel problematic at these stages. I
Yes,
think so.
yes. I mean,
Exposure to such, yeah,
yes, exactly. I mean, like becoming a developer is not only you know how to develop the things, you should also know how to explain the things. That is really important. So coding is just one part, and there are a lot of other parts, right? You must have excellent verbal and written communication, because once you work in a team, once you work with any organization, you must like you must convey your points. Like even though if you have written some code and if you have solved some problem, you should be able to explain it to anyone, right? So then only you'll make any contribution to any organization. The same thing happens for the hackathons also, right? You must have been to the hackathons. There it's about the idea, how you pitch the idea. It's about the creative way of solving, right? Problem solving. It's not the code which makes you win any hackathon, as far as I know. So communication is really important in any kind of profession, whether it can be engineering or let it be any kind of, even in politics, right? So the communication is really important.
yeah, because students in generally who are like aiming for development skills generally like think like English is like something not, or maybe communication skills. So that's a valid key point that you put, sir. And we like I what was your journey like? You were telling about earlier before that you applied to so many companies and that you faced a lot of rejection. So you would like to talk about that so that students
Yeah,
can guide
definitely.
you.
So I was in second year, and then someone told me that development is something, and then you should focus more on competitive coding. And I thought that I have wasted my 2 years, and then I left everything. I left contributing on GitHub and all, and I started competitive coding. So initially it was like I used to spend 3 days to solve a question. So that was really like very heartbreaking for me. Yeah, I'm taking 3 days to solve a single problem, and then I didn't give up. I kept on trying, and then finally I ended up as like solving 3 problems in a day. And then again saturation came, right? Once you have solved all the easy problems and all the basic problems, and then there is a there is a saturation level. Then there will be only tough questions and very high algorithms and all. At that time, again the same thing, like it used to take like 1 day for one problem. But I didn't give up, and I kept on trying. So I did coding on HackerRank, Hacker Earth, and also Gigs for Gigs was really helpful for me to prepare for the placement. And from the very first day of fourth year, I remember the companies started coming. And from the first company that came to my college was PayPal, and we were around 2,000 students. We went there, and there were 3 questions I remember, and the questions were from DP, and one question was from array and string only, but it was of good algorithm. I guess Maneker was there, and I tried to solve those questions, but I couldn't solve all. I tried to run few test cases, but I couldn't clear that coding test. So I remember that that was the only coding test in my calls which I couldn't clear. And then the Microsoft came, and then all this company, right? Goldman Sachs, Oracle, and all these coding rounds I cleared. And the technical round was easier because they used to ask the questions which I have already attempted on Gigs for Gigs. But again, like there is a problem, like once you read the solution on Gigs for Gigs, or maybe any blog, but you don't know how to explain to this to anyone, right?
that is really important. Like when during interview, it's not about just writing the code on the piece of paper. It's about how you explain your solution to them. And again, they will ask you to optimize your solution, and then you have to give them a very perfect answer, perfect optimized solution. But this was something which I learned from giving a lot of interviews. And so I really recommend everyone to take mock interviews before you face actual interview. That will really help you to gain all these skills. And coding is really important. I got rejected in HR rounds of 22 companies, including all this company. So what I learned is, so it's not only the coding which makes you a perfect developer. Yes, but the coding is the first minimum requirement for becoming a developer. That is competitive coding, because using that only you will qualify your first round, and in the upcoming technical rounds you can talk about your projects, you can talk about your whatever community you are associated with, and like that. But the first thing is the coding. But the one more thing, like all the product based companies, right, like Microsoft, Google, Apple, they cover only DS and algo. So there is a reason behind that. So I'll tell you. So before becoming a software developer, one should become a software engineer first. And the software engineer is one who knows the fundamentals of computers. And fundamentals of computers are operating system, data structures, object-oriented programming language, computer networks, database management systems. So all these whole together makes you a software engineer. And once you are software engineer, then only you can become a software developer. So this is something that students make a mistake. Even I did the same when I was in first and second year. I was doing competitive coding, but very less. Like I thought that no, I'll learn web development, I'll learn ML, and I'll do something. But no. So the coding is something that you should practice daily. You should do daily, because the consistency matters a lot. You can't be a good coder in a single night or maybe in single month. It requires a 4 years of consistent practice to be a good coder. And trust me, like a good coder, right? There is a difference. Like if you have learned just say, let's say some tech stack, let's say you have learned more, and one guy who is like practice a lot of code on data structure, he has a good grip on data structures, oops and all, he'll be better developer than you. Because when you work at a scale, then you will see the difference. Like your data structure concept will be used there, your OS concept will be used there. When you will have to work on optimizing your web pages, and when you'll have to work for like let's say it's not about using the framework, right? If let's say if you are working for a Facebook, and what is the difference between Facebook and other company? Facebook is the company where the engineers has developed the React, and we all are using the React. And if you want to create the React, then you should know the fundamentals, right? You should understand like how to optimize this thing. So React was something which they built when they found that there is a problem with normal vanilla JS, there is a problem with Angular, then only they have come up with React, right? So this is the difference. That's why the product based companies look for the people who are very good at algorithm, who have a problem solving skills. Because you don't have to use the frameworks, you have to create the framework. So there is a difference. So I think
I was
this is
exactly
the
going to
reason.
ask you that development versus competitive coding, and you just
Yeah, so I guess I have covered.
yeah, a lot, sir. So we have been seeing you on GitHub a lot, and you have done an amazing job at projects over there. The water monitoring system itself has 70 stars and 170 Fox. So would you like to talk about a bit about open source and how students should approach it, and how should they
Yeah,
balance it with competitive coding?
yeah, sure. So open source is something that it's like creating your digital footprint. So meaning in future when your resume will not be of like something which will fetch you a job. Your digital footprint will. So it will carry more weightage than your resume. So your digital footprint includes everything about you on the internet. So what can be a digital footprint for us? For us, it's GitHub. GitHub is like Instagram for us. The same thing, right? For models, it's Instagram. For us, it's GitHub. So on GitHub, when you put your code, when you put your repository, so it shows your path, it shows your journey. The green dots there shows your journey that you have started from 2015 and now in 2020 you are contributing. So there should be a gradual progress there. So assume the people thinks that I'm very beginner, I shouldn't put something on the GitHub. So I remember like when I joined the GitHub, the first repo which I pushed on the GitHub was a simple calculator, and it just calculate cube and square of a number. So that's it. And then like I kept on like searching a lot of things. Like in beginning, you will find that no one is noticing your GitHub repository and no one is poking, no one is putting star. But trust me, somebody will get benefited with your repositories in some time in future. And there are a lot of open source program like Hacktoberfest is very popular among beginners. You can try that, and there are Google Summer of Code, and then Girl Script Summer of Code, and then Rails Girl Summer of Code was there. But from this year, RG Shop is no more, and there are few other programs as well, like Outreach is there, and I like we should take part in this. So what happens like when you take part in these programs, you'll be working with some organization, and there you will have some experienced developer, and they will review your code, they will review your PR, and they'll comment there, and once the people review your code, you will become better coder day by day. So that is one benefit. And another thing, like if you like let's say if you have something on GitHub, like definitely some stranger will come to you and they'll ask about you to you, like how you have solved this problem, and this will be a different kind of feeling, right? So it's really good to be on GitHub, because this is something, this should be homepage for all of us. And I must say, like you should maintain a streak there, like you maintain a streak on Snapchat, right? Just make your GitHub
That's a
great.
very valid point, sir, because students over
Actually,
in campus.
we do have it. We do have a sort of competition amongst us in the DSC itself. If you go and check out like most of the DSC developers that are being working on the project, I think Shresh and Jay, who are in this meeting right now with us, we do have that sort of competition where we usually tend to have that like, okay, at this day these many contributions and the streak. So I think that's a very valid point that you said, sir. And to all the viewers of this video, try to maintain that streak sort of thing so that it will inculcate that habit of daily programming. It can be anything. It can be your code solution. It can be your personal log that you want to push on GitHub. It can be anything. But it's got to be something. It's got to be. Make it a habit. Make it like a daily habit for us.
Yes,
Very well added,
actually.
Shubhang. It's amazing idea. You're very rightly said about Snapchat, sir, because students, when they get addicted to that icons that are common, they can get addicted the same way to pushing code on GitHub, and they learn over there instead of just putting filters. And that's the
So
making that cycle of
yeah,
addictiveness
and
to the platform.
GitHub is something like you should treat as a social media, right? Once you are involved into a lot of organization and a lot of repository, there you will review the code, you will comment on the issue threads, and you will feel like you are using some kind of Facebook there. The only difference you'll see, there is no DM option, which is actually not required there, and you'll be like talking with different developers, you'll be reviewing their code, and then people thinks that okay, so I'm not good at coding, how can I contribute on the GitHub? So it's not only about the coding. Even if you open issue, you can fix a typo in README, you can review someone's code, you can improve documentation, the best part, right? Even for the, let's say, any big organization, you can improve their documentations, and that's the best way to get started with open source.
So there's always has been students, overwhelming towards GitHub. Whenever they join in, they see tons of people writing so much code, and you're very rightly said when you said this that students feel like I don't know much. Why should I put my code? But I feel that if this change happens, that the landscape of overall how much software quality software is written is going to go very high up, like when students get exposed to platforms quite early in schooling stages only instead of when they leave college.
Yes, true. I mean, like we should always keep this in mind, Lord. We should never compare our first chapter with someone else's last chapter, right?
Yes.
You are getting just started with the. So I get like surprised when I check somebody. So I'm a very like bad GitHub stalker. I stalk a lot of people on GitHub. When I see people, their first repository is far better than mine. So I feel very like, I mean, like it's like quite depressing for me. Okay, how stupid I was when I was in 2015. Like the people who are just starting with first year and they're doing something amazing, right? So they are doing some website and all, and I started with a calculator. So you should always compare someone's first chapter with your first chapter. Never compare your your first chapter with someone else's last chapter, right? He has been like, let's say you are comparing your profile with someone who is already working, contributing on GitHub since 5 years, and you have just started. So there will be a difference, right? He has been contributing to 5 years. So check his first repository, check his contributions 5 years back, and then see, you'll feel that you are on the same track.
So that's very exactly said. Once a master was beginner. So the beginner level, we should not be comparing people. It's just that we should be comparing ourselves with ourselves, how we have improved from the
Yeah.
next day. That's very important. So that's for employee, for everyone in any field of life. So that has been our major one. So you have made some multiple projects. I actually saw went through your website a lot. So like the VIT shuttle, cab tracker, the library management, the solution designing part is there in that's what inspires a lot of us at DSE. And how can we inculcate these abilities of creating problem solving mentalities
Yeah,
while
sure.
being developer? Yeah, that's the
Yeah,
thing.
sure. So it's like, first you have to understand the problem, right? So look, like, I guess like when this corona started, like everyone was, so I remember like I built that tracker on, I guess second night of lockdown. So at that time I thought that the motivation came from, like, there were a lot of fake WhatsApp forwards, fake news all around on the Facebook, Twitter, that we reported this many corona cases and all. I thought that why can't we solve it using technology? And I found that there are APIs already, and I use that and I build that COVID tracker. And it simply does nothing. It's a very like simple website. It just shows you the number of, I mean, the corona reported cases in very convenient form, in graphical form. So the like way, you always, when you develop any project, right, you try to like think in this way, like it should be beneficial for someone. Like even if your, let's say your project is being used by 10 people, then also you are adding value to the life of 10 people. So this is the difference, right? Once, like, assume that you are doing a project and nobody is using, you are only using, then it's of no use. Like think of making it, like, adding a value to others life, then it will make a difference. Like when you mention in your resume, let's say I have done, let's say, library management system, which includes, let's say, multiple tables, I have used this and that, but it won't make much difference, right? But once you write, okay, I have built a Chrome extension that simply display a random inspirational quotation every day. It's available on the web store and being used by, let's say, 100 people, and you are adding a value to the 100 people, right? And this makes a much difference in your resume, much difference as a developer inside you. So I think like this is something that you should think, like whenever you develop something, try to like bring it in front of everyone, put it on GitHub, make it live, and definitely people will notice you, people will use that, and you can have something, right? Even though like these days a lot of people, they do like ML, like ML is very crazy, like everyone is crazy about ML, and they do, like, let's say, existing model, they use existing model, and they do small projects just by writing 10 lines of Python code. But the problem there is, you should add some improvement there. It's okay to use someone else model, but you should have some kind of your like improvement there. Like you should
Something
optimize that.
innovative out of the
Yes,
box. Like something should be
yes,
new. It's like not straight line thinking should be there.
yes. And just you said, right, the VIT shuttle camp. So I remember that project was basically in VIT, inside the campus is very big. So there are shuttle caps that runs inside the VIT, right? So I thought of like making an app, so where you can actually see the location of the shuttle caps inside your campus. So it's just a simple project. So you just put a marker over a Google map, but it's a useful, like it's making people's lives easier. Like you'll come down only when there is a cab nearby, and you'll take that cab. So think in this direction. I think like this is something like you should first understand the problem, then come up with a solution, whether it can be web, it can be mobile app, or it can be a ML model. So anything will do.
Yes, it's all about the impact we write with code, because code alone is nothing. It's mostly when it runs and it impacts the human using it. Isn't
Yes,
that the
it should
point?
add some value to someone's life.
Yeah, that's
And
that's
the
the
same thing, right? Just a water monitoring project. So the idea behind that is to, I mean, to conserve the resources, right? To help us, like the water is a very like second most important resources, right? So we just want to minimize the wastage of water, and with that motivation I started that project. Is still ongoing, and we are taking contributions from G-Shock, and then we started taking contribution from now Lip Code, and there is one more program, Cat's Winter of Code, that's pretty soon coming up in from September, I guess.
Oh, that's amazing to hear, sir. And so what we have seen with students is that they just jump on the newest hottest tech that comes around. Like if somebody says tomorrow that in XYZ blockchain stuff is going to pop up next year, so everybody starts putting their energy. So what should be the best way for students to actually like focus on the things that are required development and require actually a lot of time but pay off later, but rather than just jumping on things that sound hot but are not actually? Like, I'm not saying blockchain, but particularly just taking an example.
This is the mistake that students make, right? We hear some buzzwords and we started running behind that. That's not the way, right? You should first understand the fundamentals, right? You Right now no one is expecting you to create blockchain. First understand like why there is a need of blockchain. First understand the cryptography, understand the networking, computer networks, how does it work, how does hashing works, then only you can create blockchain, right? So these technology keep on changing. Like I remember when I started coding, so it was HTML, and I thought that by learning HTML I'm done, like I'm Superman and I know everything. And then see like whatever things, then Bootstrap came, then Angular came, then React came, now Vue is coming. So it will keep on changing, right? But I remember like like during sixth or seventh standard, I heard about arrays, and now only I am learning arrays. Right? Even new languages coming up with array. So that's why the data success algorithms are really important. Like it's not going to go anywhere. So these things are really important. Like you should understand the fundamentals first for any kind of technology before jumping to any track. Like whether if you are going for backend development, you should understand the actual architecture of the all the backend things, right? How does it work? How does the cloud works? How does the MVC works? Because right now Node.js is there. What if in coming future some XYZ JS will come? And JavaScript is very, I mean, like it's
So
uh,
JavaScript is
like
like like in this call, we like 10,000 repositories would have been created till this time.
yes,
JavaScript is
definitely. So
so
Java is
growing.
the language with the maximum pull request on GitHub. So that is the stats. I checked that. So new things will come up, right? But you should understand that why does React has appeared in the market, right? So all these things you should understand. And the first for students, the main focus should be you try to become software engineer. Once you join the organization, definitely you will become a software developer.
So, sir, we obviously know that we can't reveal a lot of about Postman, but we were thinking if you could just tell about what learnings did you have after leaving the college and just joining as a as an intern. What stuff do you want to tell students not to make mistakes about? Because a lot of students from fourth year would be joining as interns. So maybe a
Yeah.
guide for them.
Yeah, sure. So I think like before joining to any company as an intern, like, few things that you should learn. The first thing I would say that Git and GitHub, you should be familiar with the version control because every company is using that. Git will be used in every company. You should know. So when I was in college, I was contributing a lot to on GitHub, but I wasn't very much familiar with branching, merging, and resolving the conflicts. The reason there I was working alone, right? It's like I'm the owner of this repo. I'm only contributing. There was no team. But once you work in the company, there will be multiple people who will be contributing to the same repository. So you should understand the Git really very, I mean, yeah, at a very good level, and you should understand the branching strategy, merging conflicts, and all these things you should know. So how does the staging work? So this is one thing that I recommend everyone to learn. So when you are in college and you know that after 1 month you are going to intern with some company, and you once you are in final year, so you should learn Git. You should spend some time and you should learn Git. That is one thing. And another thing, my suggestion would be like just try to, like, let's say you must know, right? Once you have got the intern, in before they will tell you, okay, we are best, like for Postman, like we work with all kind of JavaScript frameworks. So it's good to know little bit of JavaScript before joining Postman, right? Because it will be easier for you to understand the existing code base. Because so I remember, like when I joined the Postman, and when I saw the code base, like there were like multiple files. Like I was like, I was thinking, okay, how
It
can
can
I
be
get started?
overwhelming a bit, like so many files, what to do, what's connected to what.
Where to do, yeah, where to add my code. And I remember, like my manager, he's Kane, basically. He's one of the co-founder of Postman. So on the first day, he told me, Vinit, whatever code you will be writing, in some day it will be going to the production, and you have to live up to the expectations of the millions of users who are using the Postman. So that was a very big statement by him. And then that is something, like from on that day, first day, I thought that whatever I have to write, thinking that it's going to make an impact on millions of users. And it's a great feeling, right? When you write some piece of code and it will be on the production, and it will be being used by the millions of developers, then it will give you a sense of responsibility, sense of like kind of acknowledgement, like your work is being used, and it's a great feeling.
So
So
it's
these are few things.
Postman we have been using quite regularly in our own production cycles, that we projects that we students at DSC make. It's like a boon for us. If it didn't existed, we would be like how would we manage APIs? So that's really great, sir.
I
And
actually recommend everyone you to go through our CEO, that Abhinav Asthana's interview with
okay,
Your Story I. So he has explained his journey. So that's really helpful. Like, so how they started as a just a college fresh graduate, how they started Postman. So that's a really nice, I mean, like nice story. And then it was started as an open source, right? It was a repository on GitHub, and then now it has become a big organization.
that's that's quite amazing, sir. So, any other points that you want to like make the students out, or in general, that this is the thing that you need to keep in, or maybe just about tech stacks that you want to talk about, any technical solutions that you thought students must know, like must follow.
Yeah, so the few things, like the first thing, you should code daily. Like if you are a
Yeah,
student, you should be maintaining a streak on any coding platform, maybe HackerRank, HackerEarth, or CodeShare, or maybe Code Forces. But if you are a beginner, you should start with HackerRank or HackerEarth. And the one mistake that students make, right? They start with Gigs for Gigs. No, if you are in first and second year, you should do HackerRank or HackerEarth. So Gigs for Gigs is something. Let me try to give you an example. So assume that when you are in 12th standard, right? Just 3 months or 2 months before the board exams, like you buy last 10 years Arihant archive, right? Question papers, and you start solving crash course kind of thing. So Gigs for Gigs is the same thing. So there you will
so
find all the
if Geeks for
comprehensive
Geeks didn't
guidelines.
existed, the computer science community would be like
Yes,
losing a leg.
yes,
Because
yes.
without everybody sees look up solutions there.
So that is shortcut to your placement, right?
Uh,
But first you should focus more on HackerRank, HackerEarth, CodeSafe, and all. Take part in different coding challenges there, and there you will find the, see, like there will be a this much big problem. Some there will be, they cook up some good story, and after reading all the story, once you think, you'll find, okay, they are just asking you to sort the array. But in Gigs for Gigs, they will tell you in single line you have to sort this array. So that won't give you the problem solving skills. So that will give you the algorithm skills, but this is two different things. So you learn the algorithm, but here you will learn the problem solving. So that is really important, right? Because the on HackerRank, HackerEarth, only the companies will take your first round. Even for the Postman, I think for this year and also for the last year. So for the even for internship also, for all the freshers, there will be first HackerEarth test, and and once you qualify that test, then only there will be interview rounds for you. So
That's
yeah,
quite
so this,
amazing to hear, sir. So we would
yeah,
be
so
talking
this,
a bit about actual code stacks, I thought. Maybe maybe we could do a rapid fire wrong or round or something like that.
Yeah, so few more things, right? The first thing is coding, and then focus on the fundamentals. Like that's what I always say. For a fresher, you should focus on fundamental, like all the operating system concept and networks, database concept. So you will see the difference when you will work at scale, right? So currently, what happens? You are working alone. You are doing projects of your own. Then you don't know like where these concepts are being used. But once you work for a company and which product is being used by the millions of people, and there are millions of traffic to your app or website within within an hour, then only you will see like the how does the optimization works, right? So that will be really, I mean, helpful if you do all these things from a very basic level and from first year of your college. And the third advice would be take part on different open source challenges. I mean, like take part, try to be a part of GSOC, and there are a lot many, right? And whatever project that you do, put it on GitHub. And what so people forget to put README. So your README is something that makes your project look more beautiful, right? You should explain everything on README. That
Because
should
that's
be
the first thing anybody sees, not the
yes.
code base, no, the readme is
Yeah,
there.
without readme your project will be of no use, so that is something that you everyone should take care. And the fourth thing would be like improve your communication, because that is again an important thing. And take part in different hackathons and all, where you will meet different people, and you will just I mean like you will have some kind of growth there. Once you go to any hackathon, you will meet different people. It's not about winning, it's about gaining the experience, like. So these are few things which I say. But the first and last and most important thing is code daily. So that is the most
Yeah, it's
important.
just like going to gym. You, if you don't go to every day, you will start losing your
Thing.
like whatever you
Yeah,
have gained.
yeah,
So it's like going to code every day for like an hour or two. It's mostly like a habit.
yeah,
If you don't make that
yeah,
habit, you won't be able to inculcate it well.
true. I mean, the consistency is the key.
That's true for anything, right? And that applies to development too. That's so awesome about
Yes.
the thing. So we thought about having like we were ruffling through ideas for the podcast. We thought somewhere we could have a rapid fire round or something like that. This is a small
Yeah,
one.
sure, sure. Yeah, sure.
So what about Flutter or React?
I mean,
Or
like,
if
I
React
never
Native?
worked with Flutter, so I have never worked with Flutter, not even React Native. So I'll go with React only.
No, it's like React Native or Flutter. So that's the question.
Oh, React Native or Flutter.
Ah,
Okay. So I'll
that's
go with React Native.
okay. React Native. Vue or React? Vue is upcoming, so I thought maybe you would like that one.
React only. See, like haven't worked with Vue. I
Okay.
haven't worked with Flutter, so my answer would be React only.
Okay, the mostly JS focused, right? Okay, Python or Node.js. I was focusing on technologies mostly here.
Node.js.
Node.js, okay. Elon Musk or Steve Jobs?
Steve Jobs.
Steve Jobs. Why, sir, we might ask? Elon Musk is making
Yeah,
a lot of,
he has brought the revolution, right?
yeah.
So he is the guy who has started the something which make everyone to invest into technology, right? He was the leader, right? I must say, like he started something, and now all of us are following him. So
That's
right
quite an
now,
inspiration.
Elon Musk is the greatest leader, but the someone who has started this legacy is Steve Jobs. So that's the whole point.
Windows or Mac OS?
Mac OS,
Android or iOS?
uh, iOS,
iOS.
obviously, because the
Okay.
look and feel.
So you're mostly in the Apple bubble, like the
Yeah.
Apple ecosystem. That's amazing. So that's for the rapid fire round. This was a mini one. So maybe if you could tell us about an interesting story that you thought that students could like learn from, just something chronologically. We don't know much about like things that, like for example, maybe you merged the wrong thing on the master branch and then it created a havoc or something like that.
To reiterate this question, maybe accident at work, which caused like a disaster in the code base. Maybe that is
Yeah.
something that can be a fun story, and that can be taken as a like a lesson by the students?
Yeah, sure. So I remember like I made few mistakes like when I was doing internship with Postman, like even a small mistake, right? I remember like there was something where I have to check, I mean, whether it's an array or string, and I missed that check and it broke the whole Postman app and it got crashed. So it was just a small check, right? You have to just check whether the type is array or string, and it made the whole app to crash. So these are the small things that we learn, right? We learn by the mistakes. It's okay to make the mistakes, and then there are multiple times, like even a lot of people make mistakes when you are doing the like when you are writing the code. But the good thing, like we follow TDD approach. That's what we call test driven development. So we write more tests than we write the code, right? We, let's say if we have written 10 lines of code, we'll write 20 lines of test for that, so to ensure that nothing should break in production. So like a lot of companies are following now TDD approach, and the students are not aware of that. We just know how to make the things work, and then we don't worry and we don't care about the other things. But
Yeah,
in the
so
companies,
pretty making it CI/CD is a very important part, because
yes,
if your
yes,
code
true,
doesn't test out well, it breaks everything.
yes. Yeah, it's like there are multiple people who will be contributing to the same project, same repo, and then you have to have some kind of checks, right? It's not feasible to test all the flows, so there should be some kind of automation. So that's why like every companies, most of the companies, not every company, is following TDD approach. You write your test, and then you write your code, and so that nothing will break, and it won't break, like your code won't break someone else's feature. So this is something, and we write a lot of code tests to ensure that nothing should break in production. So this is one story.
That's quite an interesting story. So like, and obviously because having all these interactions and is like getting to know us more better about how the things are outside of the college boundaries that we imagine or maybe we
And
visualize. And
yes, yes, and
so,
these are few. Just sorry to interrupt.
no,
Just
no,
I
no,
just
you're not
remember.
interrupting.
I just wanted to convey. So see, like when we write code when we are in college, so we don't write comments. We don't document our code, right? That is very important. Like when you work with any company, you should write document. I mean, you should document your code. You should write your comments on the functions above the function. If you are defining any variable, the naming should be very relevant, right? Let's assume that I'm writing a function to merge to linked list and I'm naming that as a function my function. Doesn't make sense, right? If I name my function as merge linked list, so it will make my code one level up to read, right? The one who's reading, he will get to know, okay, this is there, okay, means he's trying to merge two linked lists. So this is really important, like naming of variables, and you should write comments. Let's say if you are using some variable, if you are initializing something, you should put a comment there, so that will make your code more beautiful. And because so writing code is easy, but maintaining is not, because the code that you write might be edited by somebody else in future, or even by you, right? You'll forget, you'll lose the context once you have left that code, because it's a very big chunk of code.
I want to add
So
to
these
that, sir. Actually, we are developing some applications here in our DSC too. We wrote some code 2 months ago when the coronavirus started, and we were like all in home. So we started some projects, and now when we look back on our code, it's like, what did we write? What was our
yes,
thinking then? And that's what we had to go when. So we have started writing documentations for our projects. So
yes,
you're very rightly
that's true.
saying about those facts.
One thing is research, right? Before writing your code, you should research, like whether you are going to use the perfect framework or not. Because sometimes you will find, okay, you are blocked on something. So you started with React and you are solving something, and in middle you thought that, okay, this was not the right way. So you have wasted your time, right? Spend a lot of time in doing research before developing something. So these are few things that you will see as a difference when you will work for a company, because there they will focus more on these things. Because and they'll review your PR very carefully. Like even a single like a single change in a code will be reviewed by multiple peoples to ensure that it should be perfect, right? Production ready code. And like when you are giving interview, you should keep these points in your mind. Like let's say you are giving interview for any product based company, when they ask you to write some, let's say, if they ask you to write, okay, just write a code to traverse a binary tree, and you write your code, like when you name your variables, name it very properly. And if you find like you should write some comment there, you should write, because that's an habit, right? That's a habit, and it should be from very first level. So this is something that everyone should like actually care about during interviews.
So basically, yeah, the idea is that computer understands code and humans understand comments. So we have to bridge comments and documentation. So we
Yeah,
have to
that's
bridge that
perfect.
gap. Yeah.
The
So we
whole
have to
my
make.
5 minutes of talk is summed up in a single line. Thanks. I mean, like I'll steal your line in some other podcast.
So it's basically like that's what I gathered like from the conversation. So basically, it's going to be like we can bridge the two parts. So that's the whole idea of a developer. He has both responsibilities of making the cores understand to, and the person who's going to come next to the project.
Yes,
Yeah,
true.
and maybe
And
himself, future himself. That's like
yes. Even right, when you write test, you have lint, so that you won't mistake do mistakes like leaving comma or missing semicolons and all, right? These are the few mistakes that we make.
so linters are quite important, honestly. When we also write and like we make mistakes, and it's like linter, like we use flake it and black a lot. So for Py, like I generally write Python code, so it always pops up 89 characters. That's the limit. Don't go ahead with that, and you have to just go ahead and make
But
those changes.
they cannot silly mistakes, like it will avoid your silly mistakes basically.
Yeah. Also, somewhere making code actually similar to like everybody is similar is something I think so. Like students should learn in such circumstances because like I use Lakeit and like that makes the code very consistent. It doesn't feel like anybody else has written it because then you can actually see where is it being managed. Like not you cannot identify without seeing the code, like the git blame option.
Like again, the consistency, right? You are consistent throughout the whole code base, and that's like ensured by lint.
Quite right, sir. Quite right. Uh, Actually, at this point, I've exhausted all my questions and all the content I had prepared. So I'm being very honest over there. So if anything you would like to add, or maybe guide students, or maybe just an overview of what we did, maybe something, anything you want. The stage
Yes.
is come.
The I mean, like one suggestion I would like to give is the coding is really important, like algorithms and all. You should be very good at algorithms if you are looking for a great companies to work with in future, let's say. And the second thing, if you are developing some project, right, you are working with, let's say, DAC or maybe CodeShare or some other club or chapter. So there you should try to learn, and you should try to make impact in technical terms, right? So you should have some kind of like some projects that's making some kind of difference in like in your, even for your college people, like even if you, let's say, if you make an app that simply shows the attendance of all the students, so that can also add a value to your resume. So that is one thing. And then another point would be you should learn the fundamentals very carefully. That's really important for every one of us, because if you miss single things, no, you will, it will be a blunder mistake in future if you, when you are writing code for production and you are writing code at scale. And you should think of something, right? The people, like most of people are crazy about ML, some are crazy about blockchain and all, but before jumping to that, you should actually be a good coder. Then only you should jump to all these things, like learning ML and learning blockchain, learning React and all. So that is something like you should balance yourself. So balance yourself for the competitive coding as well as a proper development. And then having a organization kind of experience when you are in college is only possible via open source. You can take part in In any open source program, let's say Google Summer of Code is there, and there is Qualys Summer of Code, and take
So
part in.
actually, we cumulatively came together in DSC also. We cumulatively came together and decided to apply for a lot of organizations, but we didn't manage
Yes.
to. We were like, we just started a few months, like we started in December or something like some. We didn't manage all. So we learned a lot, and we are like aiming for the next time that we could manage to get a good organization where we can contribute.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
that's
like
the
it's difficult to find, right? In beginning, like I faced a lot of challenge, like when like some organization, good organizations have very good issues. So I was not capable of solving that, and then you might find some good like beginner friendly organization, and there you will learn something like. And even though if you are not contributing, you should read somebody else codes, right? Let's say you are a React developer, so look for some very good React developers and try to look their code and the way they are writing. You learn a lot, right? By just reading their code. And you'll see that how they are using, how they are segregating their React components, how they are managing the states inside the components. So these are the few things that you learn by seeing their codes, right? And
code
once you are
styling. You can only improve
yeah,
by reading. That's very rightly
yes.
said, sir.
And another thing, like you should always refer the official documentation. Another people follow a lot of other tutorials as well, which is fine, but you should always refer official document. Let's say if you are learning React also, you should look for the official documentation. They have very good
Honestly, so
document.
many people said to me while learning React that try this Udemy course or some Coursera thing or something else or some YouTube thing. I went through the documentation and it was like, I got it. It's like, it says it
Yes,
so simply. I don't need to pay anybody anything else, like right there in the documentation. So if you just get around, like I'm telling the viewers over here, if you just get around the things, the documentations are enough for getting started. It's
yes.
maybe just
Uh,
overwhelming at the start, but it is
yeah,
actually
true. Yeah, actually, like people I have seen, right? They get started with the React and they'll see that I have developed a website using React. I have a React app running on Netlify or somewhere else. And when we ask questions like, okay, so why does React is very popular? They will be saying, okay, React is very faster. Why it is faster? And they are not able to answer this. How does the React is faster? So these are the things that you should focus first, like what made React faster, why there is a need of components. We have the HTML, CSS, JS, right? That's what the browser understand. Even the React code is being compiled to that HTML, CSS, and JS only. So then why there is a need of React and how it makes website faster. So these things that they are not aware of. So it's not about just writing the code. You should understand the concept behind that also. I mean, like how does the virtual DOM
yeah.
works and how it's making faster. So these things also you should focus. And then the like let's say React bundle, how does it it's
Or
getting
maybe
created, right? How,
Webpack or Babel, how they actually function to manage all
yes.
the JS.
Yes, how does the JSS works and all. So these things you should actually focus about it. And this will make you become not become a React developer, it will make you become a developer. So there is a difference, right? You never know you will be working with React for next 10 years. What if React is no more? Some other things will come, right? But you know, right? What are the things that makes a framework, right? So there is a bundling, there is a optimization, there is some kind of improvement over existing system. So all these things will be present in every framework. So these are the something which will be with you for long time.
Quite true. So honestly speaking, in after the March pandemic, then everything got locked down. The world that was before March and the world that is after March are quite different situations. So any tips? So we cannot predict anything that's going to happen next few months or in the whole scale of scenarios. But maybe if you can guide students on how to maximize the time, because there are a lot of time available to students and they're spending some people are trying to spend it on like online platforms, some are trying to learn, and there's a divide between that. So if you can guide students to effectively make use of this time and actually convert it into a potential, you say, like it works like a gold charm for them instead of like just toiling around on Netflix and Prime videos.
So I think like this is the time, right? You are at home, and you have a pressure of college work, but that's going to be online. So I hope that there will be little less pressure. So you can actually utilize this time to learn something, and you this is the time where you can develop the habit of having code, right? Writing code, and you should start coding on any platform. And the second thing would be try to learn something, take some courses, online courses, and try to develop a very good project, very promising project which will add value to your resume. So this is the best time to, because in the coming future, like there will be a little more competition for you, because due to COVID there are like all the industries are facing loss. So competition would be there. So you should be skill ready to fight with for your place in any company, right? And the problem here is like there will be lesser vacancy, like not, it's going to affect, definitely it's going to affect. And
Financial struggles are there. I
yes,
agree to that. But on
yes,
the overall scale, sir, development has been the least affected one, if we see, because we technically have Git servers and we just push our code, we can code review them, and there's a lot of tools that developers have made, because that's we are like, who invented the things? The developers invented the whole software, so and that's the thing that's running the whole world now. That's how people are interacting today, and that everybody is on their screen and cameras. So I think so they are the least affected people out of all. Don't
true. Like we are working from home since more than 2 months, right? And there is no effect in our, the work proficiency, and then you can say like the our efficiency has not decreased, right? We are working at the same scale, we are working at the same pace. So just because the technology has made all these things possible. So yes, that is true. And like every student should utilize definitely this vacation. Yeah, don't treat it as a vacation, right? You are at home and you should just simply, so that's fine. Like you should not like always look for adding one more line to your resume. You should enjoy your life, definitely you should enjoy your life. But the thing is, you should also try to learn something daily. You should, there should be a, like, before going to bed, like you should think yourself, like what I have learned today. Even if there is a single line of answer in your brain, means you haven't wasted your day.
That's quite an amazing line. So, honestly speaking, many people, like many students, would actually find this talk very to be learnful. Like they can learn a lot from this. Um,
Yeah,
like you
even
can go on if you wish to.
yeah, I think like yeah, I conveyed all the points, and I think yeah, I'm really thankful to all of you to inviting me for this podcast, and hope like all the listener will be benefited with like a couple of advices which I have given. And really nice, you guys are
Uh,
doing really great, and you are just giving us a platform to tell people that to not to the make mistakes which I have done and we have done previously, right? And this is
that's
really
how
nice. And
next we grow on the faults of the next generation. So we learn from them
exactly,
and then we impart
yes,
it.
true. Like I feel like I should have listened to such podcast long back when I was in first year or second year, so that I could have put much effort towards more into coding. And then so there are a lot of mistakes,
But
right? We
honestly
make.
speaking, it's not sometimes having a social life and doing other stuff except coding is also important, because coding is not everything. It's one thing, but there's a lot of things except that too. And we should
Yes,
not be overly saturated with it, because saturation is also a problem, because we
yes.
won't be
Even
able
if
to think in
you
other
can't
dimension.
code with depressed mind or frustrated mind, you can only code with happy mind, right? Like it's you should be
Yeah,
happy when
that would
writing the
increase productivity if we put our minds to
code.
something else, creative outputs to else than coding. That's what I think.
Like, yes, it's not about like smashing your keys and just writing anything, right? It's about thinking, right? Coding is like 90% is about the thinking, and 1% about typing, right? So you can think as like up to 90% when you are happy, when you are loving your work, and when you take it as a burden, I think like you won't be able to write very good code.
Yeah,
So
so
that is also,
quality gets affected. You're quite right,
yes,
sir.
quality. That's a correct line.
So. we would like to bring the conversation to end, viewers, and that's going to be the end of the podcast 3. Thanks for tuning in, and keep updated, because in the next episode we're going to bring a new guest, and that's going to be amazing as this was. Thank you, sir.